You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
And here I am, and you know what? I don't know. All I know is that I'm older. Time is flying by. When I was 5 or 6 years old, just wanting to get into the next grade of school seemed like it took forever. The day drug out forever. And then when I hit 18, it started speeding up. And then when I got in my mid-20s, time was going a little bit faster. And when I got into my 30s, it was speeding up even more. 50s, well, the day seemed now not like 24 hours long. It seems like maybe 13 or 14. And now at my age, 68, I get up. I come into the studio. I book a few guests. I do what I need to do. And the next thing I know, it's time to go to bed. What happened? I don't know. There's so many discussions about time. But what is time other than what we label it? So just think about that. So each one of us might interpret time physically, emotionally, different than the clock on the wall. Let's get our guests on here and, let's talk about ghost hunting and stuff like that. So let's get Tony on.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I'm ready for the snow if it happens here in the next day or two.
Hello.
Hi, Tony. You got Gary on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, Tony.
Doing great, Gary.
Okay.
How about yourself?
I am doing, well, as good as anybody could at my age. Well, why don't you tell the listeners, Tony, a little bit about yourself and what you and your wife do and what got you into, well, the eerie stuff of ghost hunting and trying to capture sounds and all that stuff.
Sure, be happy to. Well, it was funny because over a decade ago, I was a complete skeptic. I mean, ghosts didn't cross my mind. I didn't believe they existed. And it wasn't until I had met my wife, and we actually had become husband and wife, but she would always sit and watch the different paranormal shows that were on TV, and she'd always say to me, "Hey, come over here, watch this. You'll really like this." Well, I couldn't sit through about 3 minutes of it without just thinking it wasn't true and it was all for TV, and I'd get up and leave. Well, one Valentine's Day over 10 years ago, my wife said to me, "I want to do something different." And I said, "Okay, what do you want to do?" And she said, "I want to go someplace haunted." And I thought, oh, boy. But, of course, to appease her, I went along with her idea, and I booked us for a weekend in what was known in the Phoenix area as a haunted hotel. And then I went out and bought her some relatively inexpensive equipment at the time because I figured this was going to be something we did for one weekend and never touched it again. And so she got to go ghost hunting. We went and stayed at the Hotel San Carlos in Phoenix, and she used her night vision cameras. She used her regular camera. She used video recorders, and I think I had bought you an EMF recorder also, right, Cherie?
Correct.
Okay, so anyway, she had fun. That was all I cared about. But it wasn't until she got what she had captured over the weekend home and started reviewing it that I was absolutely blown away.
Well, Tony,
she was calling.
Tony,
yeah,
okay, you had the whole weekend, and in your mind, you were probably thinking, she probably didn't get anything, and but it was a fun weekend and romantic and all this stuff. You get home, what happens?
Well, exactly like you said, I didn't think we were catching anything, nor did I expect anything. Well, she got the materials home, and she started going through them. And she was calling me over every 3 to 5 minutes. Look what's in this photo. Listen to this audio recording. What's that in the video? And this just kept happening. Over every minute of it, she'd watch, or each photograph she'd go through. I was blown away. We had voices answers to the questions we were asking on the video or on the audio recorder. We had silhouettes, mists, and other things in the video we captured. I was absolutely blown away. But the thing that blew me away the most was we were one of 3 guests in the hotel that entire weekend. And there's 7 floors, 300 and some odd rooms. There was no one around. And we had answers to the questions we were asking on the audio recording. And for about a 4-month period, I just could not comprehend it. I couldn't understand it. I was searching for answers and going a little crazy because I couldn't get any answers as to how these voices appeared. And that's what started it for us. And now 10 years later, or over 10 years, whatever it's been, we're still doing it on a regular basis.
We probably investigated that hotel for more than 50 times.
Yeah, we investigated that one hotel over 50 times before we moved on to other locations.
Wow, so it was that of a hot spot. I mean, when you were there, the first time you were there, did you hear or physically see anything, or it was only on film and the recorder? And back then, was it a digital recorder, or was it, I hate to say it, Memorex?
No, we didn't hear it. No, we heard one. We heard that one voice say, "Hey." But other than that, no, we didn't see anything with our own eyes. We didn't hear anything with our own ears. It wasn't until we got the photographs, the video, and the audio recordings home. And I think it was one of the early digital recorders that we had. So yes, it was digital at that time.
Interesting. Now, as it progressed, because you said you went there about 50 times. Now, I'm going to tell you a real quick story. When I've been in radio since 76, and at one point I decided I needed to take a break. And 2 passions in my life, since I was a little kid, one was photography. The other was, well, you put me behind a microphone, you can't shut me up. Good combination. I took a job in Tacoma managing a chain of professional camera stores. Now, this is back in the early 90s to mid 2000s. And the store I was in, the original owner of the store, have you ever seen the collapse of the Narrows Bridge?
Sure.
Okay, well, that was done by the original owner of the store, and his son took it over. So, the store had a reputation. Well, anyway, we had people working on the sales floor. I got hired on as a salesman and then quickly promoted to the general manager that fast. And all our employees, because the Tacoma area, you have the, you got a naval base by it, you got the Air Force, and you have the Army, all within a few miles of it. And our employees were either ex-military or, come and work part-time military people.
Sure.
And they would tell me stories, and I thought, okay, these guys are crazy. They said that this building was haunted. Now, I worked there for close to 10 years, and it took a few years working there. And I started thinking, these guys are, I don't know. They would come up from the basement. Now, originally, this building was built in the 1870s, 1880s. It was originally a bar in the basement, and then it was a brothel for many years. It was originally a hotel, which back in the early 60s, they took off quite a few stories of it because it was not safe. And, they would say they go in the basement where we kept our stock for all 3 stores in the basement. And it got to the point, my employees would say, I'm not going down there. You have to do it. And I go, why? It's haunted. Well, what do you mean it's haunted? I hear voices. Things move. I smell weird smells. I thought these guys, you know how rumors going and then people believe it. That's what I thought. And one of the guys was an ex-chief bosun mate on submarine, so he was very reputable. One of them was an ex-Navy SEAL that worked for us. Again, he was scared to go in the basement. So after a couple of years, I got tired of it. I would go down and start pulling this stuff. One day, I walk in the basement, and all of a sudden it gets really cold. I smell lilac really strong. And then I take another step and I don't smell it. I back up, I don't smell it. I go, that's kind of strange. If anything in the basement like that, I would think, because it went underneath the city street. That's how big the basement was. And it was an old building. I figured, if anything, it'd be the smell of the sewer, but not lilac. About a week later, I go down there again. And I'm walking down, the aisle to pull merchandise. Somebody punches me in the shoulder, and I figured, okay, it's one of the guys. And he's probably mad at me, and we're going to be in a fight. I turn around with my fists, ready to hit. Nobody there. Nobody. Wow. That scared me, but it got worse, guys. I also went to school at that time and got a degree on camera repair, like digital cameras. So back that time, and still nowadays, sensors would get dirty. I would have to stay after hours when there's no dust movement and clean, sensors. So like on Thursday and Friday nights, I'd be sometimes down there till 1 o'clock in the morning working on cameras. Now, in the sales floor, there was still the staircase that went up, which was part of the old hotel that went up to our office space, because that originally was like 12 or 13 stories. They cut it down to like 5 stories. But it was this beautiful staircase. I'd be down there late at night. The doors would be double locked from the inside. So even the owner couldn't get in without me undoing it. I would hear footsteps going up the stairs. The first time it was only like one footstep, one person like footstep. And I figured, hey, somehow the owner got in. I go running out there to see what's going on. It was nobody there. And then it progressed over a couple of weeks. All of a sudden I heard multiple footsteps going up the staircase. And then I heard people going up the staircase with muffled talking. The next day, I go up to there and I tell the owners, I quit. Now, you have to understand, next to us was a Bank of California, which was vacant for about 10 years. And on the other side, it was vacant. Nothing in front of us other than the main road, nothing behind us but the alley. It scared me. And I didn't believe in the paranormal. I didn't believe in ghosts, poltergeists, or anything to that all happen.
Yeah, and that's common. There's literally 2 types of people. There's the people that experience at an extremely young age and grow up with it. And then there's the other type that get hit with something that they just absolutely, like you just explained, can explain, and it shocks them into an awareness that it's there. And those are always one of the 2 scenarios we run into. And the curious part is my wife and I are the exact same scenario. She kind of grew up with it. And of course, me, when I was younger, my father was a physics, chemistry teacher. And so every answer I got when I asked about how things worked was all scientific based. And I really didn't experience it, although when I think back to really being young, I do remember some experiences, but of course I dismissed them because, well, if science couldn't explain it, it wasn't real. But then, in my 40s, 30s, my wife took me paranormal hunting and we caught evidence I just could not explain.
It's scary, isn't it? Because I will say this, and I'll let you talk, because it's all about you, but I just wanted to say I then got really curious about what's going on. And so I did some research and found out that back in the 1890s, there was a prostitute that was murdered in one of the hotel rooms, which was upstairs at that time. And she was cut up in pieces and put into one of the trunks that they used to, travel with.
Sure.
They found her. Now, in the basement, Tacoma is a port. So back then, a lot of ships would come in, a lot of sailors and all that stuff in that time frame. Found out there was a couple killings in the bar. So if anything, that was in the basement. It was a real hot spot. Now, after I was not there for like 20 some years, I just out of curiosity, because the business failed because of, face it, photography is not like it used to be. You don't find many camera stores like there used to be, and digital killed film cameras. So the business failed and that business was there since the early 30s all the way up to the mid 2000s. So it was there for quite a long time. What went in its place was a major insurance company. And they went through and revamped it and put offices and all that stuff. And I went in there and I talked to the receptionist. I said, hey, I used to work out of here for almost 10 years. Has anything ever strange happened? And she kind of turned red and she goes, what do you mean strange? I said, anything strange. And she goes, you mean ghost? I go, maybe. And she goes, this place is haunted. Nobody wants to be here after hours. Hey, what can you say?
Wow.
So that's my only encounters of departed.
Yeah, that's a real interesting story though too, because I mean, even in the short story that it was, you said so many things that we have experienced over the last decade of investigating. The fact that you said that, you really didn't notice it at first until something was shown to you or that you were touched. And then you started hearing footsteps. And then later you heard the footsteps plus the talking. And then you had other experiences. And that is so true to someone who's experienced it for the first time, and their eyes become open and their senses become aware of what's going on, is that experience continues to grow on a regular basis. And Cherie and I have experienced that, like I said, over the last decade, where, we used to capture just the voices on, digital recorders. Today, we can hear them with our own ears. And I'll actually say what I heard while we're recording, and sure enough, we'll back it up and replay it, and you can hear the spirit say it and hear me repeat it 2 seconds after, because I heard it with my own ears. So those experiences do continue to grow and evolve.
Well, I think so. I don't know why I was hearing that muffled talking of people going up the stairs, let alone the footprints. But can you believe somebody who never believed in ghosts and really thought anybody, you have to understand, I literally ridiculed my employees when they were saying that's haunted. I would come back and I probably said some really mean things to them. Like, if you keep talking this way, you're out of a job. And then all of a sudden it happens to you, and you physically hear it, or you physically get punched and you get a bruise on the back of your shoulder blade. I mean, it's weird.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've been punched, scratched, slapped, pushed, had rocks, wood thrown at me. Remember that big metal cage that got thrown down in the basement of, I think that was San Carlos also. But
that was the first time I saw you really jump and got scared.
Yeah, that, and the time they shook the water pipes. But yeah, it's for someone who doesn't believe, it takes quite a bit to open their eyes. And then once you do believe, it just changes everything, and those senses just continue to evolve and grow. And, I don't know if that's part, everyone always says, and I remember hearing this even when I didn't believe in it, that, people always said, the veil between the living and the dead is there, but it's thin. And once you've broken it, all sorts of other things can occur. And, I never really thought much about that years ago, but today I definitely believe that to be true, because I know what we've gone through and what we've experienced, and it continues to grow today. And that's what pushes us out each and every time we go investigating. And whether that be on our own accord to a vacation, which we've got a bunch of good ones planned for 2020, but or whether it's a home investigation, a business investigation, historical site, or any other, there's always more questions that come out of it, even when we get answers. So, it's once you get into it and once you get into the depths of it, you're automatically forced to keep going because you're looking for those answers.
Now, Tony, have you ever had a spirit tell you to go, to leave, to get away, get out of here?
I don't think we've ever not had them tell us to get out, to leave, but we never have. But yes, we find that on every recording at one spot in it or another. There's always one or multiple or all of them saying, that's like the first words a spirit will say. If you asked 100 people that had an EVP what their EVP was, 99% of them would say, get out.
Interesting. Now I'm going to ask you the big, stupid question. Have you ever offered a spirit a cigarette?
Wow. No, I haven't. I haven't. Interesting question. Why do you ask that?
Well, because I would think, especially going back, back 10 years, 20, 30, 100 years ago, how many people even smoke more than they smoke now? And you would think if they passed on, it would be like two things. I mean, it was like beer, sex, and a cigarette. You think if you said, hey, do you want a cigarette? You would get a response. Yes, I want a cigarette. Now, I want you to think about that. We're going to go on break. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. So just kind of, chill there and get a cup of Java or a cup of, a tea or something. And we'll be back talking to Tony and his wife on Night Dreams Talk Radio. So stand by.
Maggot was a biker and drove his motorcycle very fast. Drove a big chop Harley with a gang color jacket and ran down Citizens for laughs. He had an old lady named Petula who packed an automatic 45 gun. They had just come up from California where they'd shot 6 cops for fun. Jake, he thought it was the best there was, as down the interstate he saw, till the day he tangled with the county sheriff who they all called 104. It was late on a Thursday evening, and Jake, he was feeling kind of mean, cause he just run out of his favorite drug, the one called amphetamine. So we sauntered up to Petula, and it said, say, baby, let's split. There's a little gas station on down the road that might be fun to hit. So they drove up to the station, and they both jumped off of Jake's ride. They were up to derision at Jake's decision as they both saw to the inside. The attendant, he was an old man, and he didn't think it very funny. When Petula pulled out that great big gun, said, honey, give me all your money. Well, the old man opened up the cash drawer, and Jake grabbed the money and ran. With Petula out the door to the big chop Harley that was parked on the center kickstand. Then they headed out for the 4-lane, and they thought it was lots of fun. With Jake on his hog, with Petula the dog, with the automatic 45 gun. He thought it was the best there was, as down the interstate he saw, till the day he tangled with the county sheriff who they all called 104. Didn't think it very humorous, and he didn't like to get sassed, cause just that morning he had a cup of coffee with a cop named Pendergrast. But the old man had a lot of sense, and he knew just exactly what to do. He dropped a dime in the phone till he got the dial tone, and he talked to operator 42. Operator 42, she was the best, and she gave out the description of Jake the maggot with the gang colors jacket and Petula with the 45 gun. Now it just so happens that Jake, he was headed for 522, where 104 was popped in the shade, thinking, baby, I'm waiting for you. Jake laughed and thought he had it made, but you should have seen the look in his eyes when outside Monroe on 522, he got.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
And here I am. We're talking to Tony and his lovely wife about, ghost hunting and experiences they have had. Now, have you ever, had an experience, seriously, where you got scared?
You want to answer that, Cherie? You want me to answer it? Yeah. the most recent investigation we did was at the Diplomat Hotel in Baguio City, Philippines. And this place has a reputation that just is downright scary just hearing about it, because I mean the locals in the town of Baguio City won't even go near it after dark. I mean they may do a tour during the day, but once the sun goes down, they won't even go anywhere near it. And Cherie and I had to get permission from the mayor of the city to be in there after dark, which of course we were able to obtain. And we investigated that for an overnight investigation. And this place was just the ominous feeling, the energy that was in there, the voices that we could hear speaking to us with our own ears before we had even gone through the recordings. When we had walked up to the building, because the building's gated, the security guard took our letter from the mayor saying we were allowed to investigate. He let us in the gate. He walked halfway to the building, turned and said, "The front door is open. Have fun." And we're like, "You're not coming in?" He's like, "Nope, won't go anywhere near it."
Now, Tony,
but
I got to ask you this, okay? Because now the listeners, you got them curious. What reputation did that old hotel have where people didn't want to go there after dark? And even the security guard, only would walk halfway and said, hey, basically, hey, guys, you're on your own. I'm not going to go there.
Well, the reputation of the building was it was originally built by a group of monks, and it was a religious building, and it was used... What?
It's a retreat house.
Right. It was a religious retreat house for monks and nuns. And they occupied the building for, I think, 20, 30 years. But then World War II...
Yamashita.
Yeah, Yamashita came in to take over the Philippines. And he used the Diplomat Hotel as his World War II bunker. And they murdered all the monks and all the nuns that were in the building at the time. So that was part of the tragedy that had happened in the building. Plus, then the building switched hands and was taken over by American soldiers, but there was a lot of life lost between the Japanese and the Americans fighting in that area. So there were priests murdered, there were nuns murdered, there were soldiers, there were both decapitations that had happened amongst both sides of the Japanese and the American soldiers. And then it became a hotel after that, where there were actually a few suicides that had occurred during the time that it was an operating hotel.
I wonder if these suicides could have had anything to do with its prior history. I mean, you think about it, all the blood it was, spilled and stained in that building, and all the negativity. I mean, I can see why the security guard wouldn't go. You guys are brave. You guys are brave. You couldn't.
Not really.
You couldn't pay me. Oh, well, unless it's a couple million. You couldn't pay me to go into a place like that. No way.
Well, that was only, 6 months ago, Cherie?
Yeah, it was 6 months ago.
And we were in the building for about 15 or 20 minutes. And that is the first time I've ever seen Cherie. She turned around, she looked at me after I was saying, "Hey, did you hear that voice? Did you hear that voice?" And she really wasn't answering me. And then finally she said, "Yes, I hear him." And then she said to me, "Can we please go outside for a few minutes?" Of course, it was pouring rain. So I'm like, okay. So we're crawling out of this. We're crawling out of this hotel, and we got outside. And I'm like, "It's raining. Why on earth would you want to come out here?" She's like, "I got to tell you, for the first time," she said, "I'm a little shook up." And I was really surprised to hear that. But I can understand why she was. I mean, I was a little on edge too. But that was only the first 15 or 20 minutes. And the rest of the time we were in there, I mean, we've captured things in there that I don't think we've captured anywhere else, except for maybe our Copper Canyon Paranormal Research Center, which was the old Phelps Dodge Hospital. But it was a frightening experience. That was probably one of the ones where I was the most fearful. And the only other one I can think of that shook me up a little bit was the first night at the Bel Air house when we were sleeping in the master bedroom, and I had set those motion detectors all the way down the hall. You fell asleep like in the first 3 minutes, and I'm laying there for like an hour, and I saw the first one light up, and then the second one light up, and I had one right by the doorway, and I'm thinking, okay, if it crosses this doorway, I'm going to freak out. And yeah, it lit right up, and I'm thinking, okay, it's in the room.
I want to go back to this one place, though, in the Philippines. Okay, with that reputation of the monks, the nuns, and all that stuff being, savagely murdered, and all the, how can you say it, the hurt, the pain, the suffering, everything that went there and happened there. What type of messages were you getting from these ghosts or poltergeists or whatever? I mean, what were they trying to tell you? Were they trying to tell you to get the blankety blank out and leave, or what were they? Or were they sharing their experiences? What did you get?
We had a combination of everything across the boards. We had voices telling us, like you said, get out, you don't belong here, leave. We had voices of both male and female telling us they needed help, they had been murdered or attacked or beaten, that they missed their family. We had ones that were asking for, what else, Cherie? I'm trying to remember what else.
There's something like a mother with a, can you hear that, baby? If that's baby.
Oh, yes. Cherie asked if they were trapped in the building. And their answer was not the baby, meaning, so I don't know exactly what that meant, but it sounded, I mean, it was a clear message, but the intent of the message sounded like, yes, they were stuck there, but there was some small child or baby that was there too, and the baby was not trapped, but the rest of them were. So yeah, I do remember that.
You heard that too.
Yes, very clearly I heard that.
Did they, any of them?
We also...
Oh, go ahead.
We also had responses in English, Tagalog, which is the native language of the Philippines, Latin, and Japanese.
Oh, wow. So it was a variety of these people that perished. I mean, how many of them didn't go through the light? They're trapped there. That is so sad and scary at the same time. How long did you guys stay in that building?
We were in there just one night for an overnight. I think we were in there from 7 o'clock till early morning, but it was just the one night. It was tricky to get permission, and so by the time we actually were able to achieve the position, we only had one night left in that particular city. So yeah, it was just a one night overnight investigation.
Now, did the mayor of that town, did he try talking you out of going there?
Well, actually, the mayor had also paranormal experience over there. So she's like, "You guys are crazy. Why do you guys want to do this?" I said, "This is our kind of like hobby."
Yeah, it was funny because what he explained to us the second he asked why we wanted to spend the evening in there, we explained that we were paranormal investigators and that the reputation of this building had drawn us to it, and we wanted to check it out. As soon as he heard all that, the first thing he says to us, he goes, "Okay, I'll let you guys in, but I got to tell you what happened to me." He said, "I was in there doing some remodeling, and I was pulling up some floorboards," and he goes, "I was bent over," and he goes, "I had my hammer on the nail, and I was pulling it up, and something came across and pushed me in the back, pushed me forward right into my hammer." He goes, "When I looked up, I saw it run down the hallway."
Well, I commend you. I don't, it sounds like one of the hotter spots on the planet because, I mean, just think about it. The monks, religious people, nuns, it sounds like there was Japanese death, American death, and well, a Filipino death there. Yeah, and how many of them didn't cross over and they're trapped there on that property?
Yeah, that's the one thing that is really hard to understand. And, when you talk to most paranormal investigators or even just plain religious or spiritual people, the one sort of guiding principle is that when you pass, there's going to be this light that you can walk through, walk into, walk towards, and pass over. But yet we hit all these locations where all these people are still there. And, at times you have to take a step back and you think about life and you're like, okay, what has gone wrong for these people, or what information is not correct, or how is this happening? Because we run into that a lot, that you're reaching intelligent spirits that are able to communicate with us, and they're right where they were from the time that they passed. And it's like, okay, did they then have the ability to come back? But why would you want to come back to a place that, was not a happy memory, or are they truly stuck? But the one thing about getting into the paranormal and researching it is you always have 100 more questions for every answer you get. And that's just something you have to deal with because it happens each and every time.
Well, you can think about it, because depending on how a person dies, if somebody dies and they weren't prepared to die, for example, and they didn't have any time to whatever, they were executed, for example, or somebody dies in a car accident, I think them are the people that might have a problem, passing through the light. Now, I don't know if I would want to go through the light, because a friend of mine who's passed on couldn't make the decision when he passed on, do I want to go to the light or do I want to go through the darkness? Because maybe the light is a trick and you want to go towards the darkness, which will take you to heaven. I don't know. But maybe these people are trapped because the way they were executed, the way they died, they didn't have a chance. So they are basically stuck living like a recording over and over again.
Possible.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a possibility, and there's 100 more possibilities. Like you said, if you were wrongly executed or you died unfairly, they may be sticking around to try to give people some answers, or they may be trying to solve other complications. Somebody who takes their own life may be stuck because, who knows? Maybe it's some sort of purgatory between heaven and hell, and who knows how long. Because the one thing we've noticed is that anytime we've investigated a location where the person has taken their own life, and we've run into ones as much as 80 or 100 years prior that they took their life, they're still there.
Yeah. So normally when somebody, they get sick or they die of old age, they are used to being prepared to die at a certain age. If somebody's younger, for example, and they have a instant death, maybe they don't even realize they're dead. It's all these thoughts that go in my mind, but I can tell you, if they are, I don't know, it's scary. Has anybody tried to help these people in that whole building to cross over? Has there been any talk of anybody, the mayor or anybody, that, to help these, entities cross over?
Well, there are definitely more than enough spirits that are asking for help, but I don't think anybody in the Philippines is going to have the guts to go do it, just because the whole religious factors and the fear of spirits runs very deep within the Philippine culture, and to get somebody to go in there and actually do that, I think would be a challenge. Now, had we had more time and we had time to listen to our evidence and then be able to go back, we would have known what we had on there. But we didn't have that opportunity, although I'm trying to talk my wife into going back again. She's a little hesitant, but
You can go back.
I'm thrilled to go back. I would go back in a heartbeat. But yeah, there's definitely ones there that need help, but I don't know of any talk of any of the local people that would be willing to do that.
Well, when you were in that building, weren't you worried about any of these entities attaching to you guys?
Yeah, well, that's a fear no matter where you go. Now, this place definitely had a very high propensity of spirits in it, and it wasn't even just the fear of having something attached and coming back, because that can happen, at any place, any time. But we were standing next to a metal gate that went to stairs that went up to a second part of the second or third story. And something had literally grabbed the sleeve of my long-sleeved shirt, and it pulled on it, and it literally pulled my arm right up against the gate. It pulled that hard. And
I believe I captured that.
you have the audio from it. Your camera wasn't facing me, but you do have the audio of me going, oh, crap, something's got my arm. But that was a little freaky. And so because that happened very early on in the night, and the overall presence of just walking down those dark hallways, the opportunity of having something attach and follow us home was definitely a big possibility. But like I said, we only did that one 6 months ago. And, after 10 years of doing this, we definitely know what can happen because we've had it happen. And so we take the right steps to make sure that does not occur.
What is the right steps for somebody that's doing what you do to protect themselves so they don't bring an entity or entities home with them? That's the worst thing you ever want to do.
Yeah, and usually the biggest mistake somebody first starting out makes. But there's a whole variety of things that can be done. The first one, obviously, is to use prayers of protection. And Cherie and I have ones before we go in that we say and use, ones directly after we enter that we say and use, St. Michael's prayer, a variety of others depending on what the situation is. We'll use them sometimes during the investigation, and we will definitely use closing prayers after the investigation. Then once you've gone from the prayers, then you go to other things like, objects. We carry protective salts, we carry
holy water,
sage, we carry holy water. So you can actually sage yourself down after you leave the building to try to keep anything from being attached or from attaching as you're leaving. There's a variety of different objects we have. We wear crosses. I have rings that have crosses on them. But the particular items that we wear, what's most important about them isn't necessarily their religious significance, but that it has a bond to you individually that gives you some sense or feeling of protection, because half of the protective process is a mental thing where you're saying, okay, I'm not going to allow this to happen. You're not allowed to do this. And this object helps me formulate that perception in my mind and blocks you from doing what I'm afraid that you might do if I'm not protecting myself.
Well, when you first started out ghost hunting, the both of you, now, did you ever bring an entity home with you?
Actually, yes, we did. Quite a few, actually, in the house. And when we went to San Carlos, that is the first time that we did the investigation. So one night after investigation, and we had this white feather, long white feather. It's kind of like because our dog is white, and his tail is kind of like feathery. So after the investigation, Tony and I, we were laying in bed and reviewing our evidence. So we saw both of us, that white feather, walking towards at the bed of the edge of the bed.
Yeah, it came right over the bed.
Exactly. And I said, oh, hi, buddy. I thought it was Loki, our dog, but he wasn't there. So I told Tony, I said, go check Loki outside. And he said that he's in the hallway. He's sleeping. I'm like, are you kidding me? What was that? So it's kind of like, scary also, but it's very harmless.
Well, it's harmless because we brought in harmless ones.
Yeah,
but that's just one example. And like I said, we had this white mist, I guess is a better explanation for it. But it literally went right across the corner of our bed, and you could watch. I was looking at a audio recorder. Cherie was looking at video, and you could watch both of our heads go up and follow this thing as it crossed the bed. And it was not our dog. But that's just one example. The other one was we had come home from an investigation, and it was the following day. I had went out to go run errands, and Cherie was actually giving the dog a bath. And the dog was, when he got out of the tub, was getting all crazy and running around. And Cherie thought it was funny at first. So she took out her cell phone. She was recording the dog. Well, the dog took off, got out of the room, and went into the living room. Well, she just took her phone and she threw it on the bed while it was still running. You couldn't see the video, but the audio was still running. And as she's chasing the dog around, when we listened to it, we realized there were about 6 other voices in the house that were not her. And her and the dog were the only ones in the house. And these voices on the recording were making comments about Cherie and what she was doing. They were talking to the dog. They were telling the dog to settle down, stop running. It was unbelievable.
Well, what did you do to get rid of those spirits out of your house?
We didn't.
Tony doesn't want to.
No, if they're not causing trouble, and I can tell you we probably have, and they come and go. They're not here all the time, although there's probably not any time that there's not at least 1 or 2 here. But they have not caused us any trouble, and therefore I don't feel the need to kick them out. And we do a lot of ITC communication. A lot of it happens right here in the house, and it's great to be able to get those responses when needed. And so until something bad happens, I think when we first realized we had him in the house, Cherie said, oh, you can be here, but I don't want you in the house. And so I literally found that in order to get good EVPs at home, I had to go out on the porch because it actually made a difference. But I think over the years they've crept back in because you haven't asked them to go out. But so far nothing negative has happened. So
right. I think they're also protecting us. Because last time we went to Oxbow Saloon in Payson, and after the investigation, we had an accident a day after. Is it a day after? Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got crunched between 2 other cars. Oh no, we were in the front.
We were in the front.
Well, anyway, there was a car behind us that got slammed into by a car behind him. Both those cars were totaled. Our car didn't have a scratch. I mean, not even a scratch on the bumper. Mm-hmm. And even the cop said, how did you what happened? Even at the inside of the car, the headrest, the force was so traumatic that it forced the headrest off the seats and forward, even though we were sitting in the seats. But there wasn't a scratch on the car, and after the police said, okay, you can go, we just drove away.
Yeah, but the other 2 are like...
Yeah, the other 2 cars were totaled. We're thinking, how did that happen? And, Cherie said, I think one of the spirits absorbed the energy or did something, but, I mean, it was a strange experience.
You should have been an accordion.
Exactly.
Yep.
Interesting. Now, have you ever had things in your house move around? In other words, move from a different location where you put it, or disappear for a period of time and then come back in a different location, or just totally disappear at all?
Yeah, we have that happen all the time, but we have kids, so it's usually them. But as far as objects moving, we've had it happen, but not in the house.
Okay. I can honestly tell you, I actually had a beautiful stereo system one time with fantastic speakers. And all of a sudden my wife went to listen to music, and all of a sudden it didn't play music. And the speakers were gone. Well, we traced it down. It wasn't spirits. It was my son. Stole them and put them in his car.
Yeah, we experience that about 20 times a day.
Okay. How about some people that claim when they're out at a house, for example, doing, well, the research on, spirits in a house, and the people claim that money drops from the ceiling, quarters and nickels or pennies. Have you run across anything like that?
Now, we've heard those stories happen, and we've heard, firsthand accounts of people saying that. I have not experienced that personally, but from what we've had and have had experienced, I really don't see any reason why it actually could not happen. I mean, with what we've experienced over the years, having a penny fall from the ceiling, or asking to have a coin show up, I think it very possibly could happen. We've never personally experienced.
Can we ask for $100 bill?
I was going to say that. Well, the reason why I say that,
we can do.
I had a detective, was a detective, homicide detective, for a state police. I don't remember what state it was, but he did one investigation where quarters were supposedly dropping from the ceiling. And you know what? I wouldn't want it stopped. If all of a sudden quarters would start dropping, from the ceiling, I'd be happy, because that would mean more money for Starbucks.
For sure.
And they also say, though, that when a coin is dropped, I mean, it's very important to look at the date, because usually the date that is on the coin that shows up has some unbelievable significance to the person that it was meant for. So, I mean, I've definitely heard of that experience multiple times. I've never personally had it happen, but do I believe it can happen? Yeah, I do.
1965, silver.
62, you mean?
Oh, I see. All right.
Yeah, let's make sure they're silver coins.
Yeah, you want silver. Hey, we need to go for a break. We're going to be out for about 8 minutes, so you guys want to, sit back and relax. We'll be back with Tony and his wife, and we'll be talking more about their ghost hunting experiences. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Also, you can see a little bit of bio with Tony and his wife, so check that out when you're on the website. And we'll be back after a break and the news.
Borealis starlit crown arches over the Puget Sound. Berenice's hair drapes the horizon to the end. Where is my lucky star? Sister of the Pleiades walks in beauty like the night, oh, that is best, dark and now lost to that's the only point that's fixed. I once believed in love. Even love cannot bridge this rift. Where is my lucky star to
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Night Dreams Talk Radio Network brings you the World Paranormal News with James Creechbaum. Now, the latest news.
This is Night Dreams Talk Radio Network News, and I'm James Creechbaum. And snowstorms returning to the Northwest this weekend. Cold and snow may keep freight volumes down, rejections up. Frequent rainstorms and snowstorms have slammed the Northwest this month, resulting in higher volatility in this freight region. Quiet weather days have been scarce. And another storm is on the way this weekend. This storm may not have as much impact on the travel and trucking as some of the others, but it could still have some effects. Stretches of interstate roads will become hazardous again, likely leading to some delays in freight movement. The Northwest region, or Pacific Northwest, has its own, as it's also known, is typically made up of backhaul markets year-round, meaning there's usually more freight entering the region than leaving it. This can loosen capacity as more trucks get stuck waiting for loads to haul away. This results in carriers rejecting fewer loads since they have fewer freight options from which to choose. Here's a report that came in from a witness of a cryptid. Somewhere in West Virginia, again, middle of the night, I got off an exit. One of those long, curvy ones. I saw lights before I got off and assumed it was exit stuff, or maybe even construction. I get to the exit, and it's not construction. It's a ton of Army or National Guard guys. The exit was lit up brighter than daytime, so many lights set up pointing everywhere. The Army guys were completely decked out, gas mask on, and assault rifles. They were sprinting around, shouting all kinds of things. One guy at the corner was frantically waving me through to get back on the highway. I gunned it out of there, looked in the news later, and didn't see anything. No idea what was going on that night, but it sure was really, really bizarre. Bizarre 3 tentacled sea monster has been identified. Now, marine experts have shed light on a recent viral video showing a bizarre sea creature with 3 tentacles. The video shows the creature flapping about on a wooden deck or pier, presumably after being fished up by a young man whose voice can be heard expressing disbelief at the peculiar catch. Now, marine experts here at the Ocean Conservation Trust have taken a look at the video, and without seeing the animal firsthand, it is, of course, tricky to identify 100%, he told everybody on the report. However, from what he can see, it does appear to be an underdeveloped skate. Blue fire of the sea. Amazing bioluminescent algae filmed in Australia. The Australian photographer captured amazing footage of bioluminescent algae emitting a magnificent neon blue glow. This rare occurrence only usually happens about once or twice a year. Ghost hunter calls 911 after hearing a voice. A paranormal investigator called the emergency services after hearing cries for help at a Pennsylvania cemetery. The peculiar incident, which took place on Wednesday just before 10 a.m., occurred after the ghost hunter, whose name has not been disclosed, called the police after hearing what he described as a woman's voice calling out to him in Evergreen Cemetery in Spring Hill Township. During the 911 call, he remained adamant that the voice, which had been coming from a pile of dirt inside a shed at the cemetery, had been screaming, "Help, help, I'm buried alive." keen to help the woman and unwilling to wait until officers had arrived on the scene, he reportedly purchased a shovel and started digging next to the shed in a bid to reach her. When the troopers got there, however, there was no sign of a woman anywhere. No female was located, and troopers cleared the scene, he said in the incident report. As things stand, the source of the voice that the man had heard continues to remain a total mystery. Next news break on the next show.
You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. Boy, the week has went by so fast. Now, if you had an encounter with a spirit, poltergeist, or something strange in your house, on your property, why don't you send me, an email? It's easy to do. It's nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Our guest tonight is Tony and his lovely wife. Now, I got to ask you guys both a question. What would you recommend for somebody who just wants to get into ghost hunting? Should they join a group? Should they just buy the equipment and do it on their own? What type of equipment would they need? And what do you guys honestly recommend what they need to do to start, if that's something they want to do as a hobby or a career or what?
Well, for somebody first starting out, my first advice would be to either join a group or find somebody that has multiple years of experience to be able to work with them and learn from them. The biggest mistake I think any new investigator could make would be to not do the necessary things to protect themselves, or two, not have the knowledge to be aware when they may have encountered something that is much more dangerous than what it appears to be. And a very good example of that is like the spirit of a small child. That is usually a red flag to begin with. Not that you can't run into children's spirits, but we just from experience know that when it is pretending to be a child, chances are you have the possibility of running into something much more dangerous. But the experience of working with somebody or a group that has experience and learning from them would definitely be my first recommendation. Cherie and I have made our share of mistakes, and some of them really stupid ones, years and years ago, which now we have learned from. But as far as the equipment question goes, for somebody just starting out, something as simple as a video camera with maybe night vision on it. You don't have to go as spectacular as the full spectrum and all of that yet, but a video camera with good sound quality and night vision capabilities I would recommend. I would definitely recommend a good quality digital recorder, because one of the best forms of evidence I think that can be captured are EVPs. And a simple, somewhere between a
cell phone.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point too. Even a cell phone, although people always say, "Oh, that wasn't made to be used for paranormal." Well, there's not a single piece of equipment out there that was technically made for the paranormal, and a cell phone has both a video recorder and an audio recorder, and my wife uses hers during our investigations. Now, we've got usually portable lighting to go with it, but she has captured some of the best EVPs on both cell phone video and cell phone audio than some of our extremely expensive equipment. So some sort of video recording device, an audio recorder, an EMF, because that can be useful. Mm-hmm. You can go into the real high-end and expensive paranormal equipment, but 9 times out of 10, the majority of our evidence shows up on a video recorder, an audio recorder, or photos.
True.
So very interesting. Now, you're saying a regular phone, a cell phone could work for somebody just starting out. I got to ask you another question. What is your honest feeling about ghost boxes? I have mixed feelings because I have a massive electronic background. I know how when you go in there and modify these radios, how it scans up and down, and you can hear, because it's going up and down the band, you can hear bits and pieces, and sometimes it'll match the question you ask. But I got a mixed gut feeling on ghost boxes. What is your guys' feeling?
Well, let me ask you a question first, Gary. How have you used one, and for how long?
I have played with the apps, and I actually have one. And again, I have a massive electronic background, massive. And I know how when you modify these things through the phase lock loop circuitry, that it'll scan up and down the frequency. I don't know. I've asked questions and got somewhat of answers, but again, I could have asked another question and got the same type of answer. I don't know. You're taking bits of broadcast, from different radio stations, different songs, different what announcers are saying, and it's just scanning up and down and catching, the most powerful part of the signal. So a stronger radio station, for example, is going to be more, how can I say, it's going to show up more than a weaker station is. It's just the way how it works.
Well, you're absolutely correct. But a truly well-built ghost box will scan the frequencies to a point where it's not the radio stations that you're listening for. It's in between them. And when you recognize how a spirit speaks and how they communicate, they're going to be in those silent sections where you're not picking up a radio. And let's face it, if your spirit box is picking up, a second or two of music, a Taco Bell commercial, a car dealership ad, I mean, you can clearly tell that that thing's not scanning at the rate it should be. And I'm not just talking about the frequency at which it scans, whether that be, a 400 millisecond or 100 millisecond. I'm talking about that it's not scanning to the point where it's opening up where spirits do speak. And they speak in between. And over that white noise hiss, their voice will come in either above that hiss or below that hiss. And every time we catch one, their voices come in between 100 hertz and 300 hertz is where the sound of their voice is resonating from. So are there hundreds of spirit boxes out there that don't quite work like they should? Yeah, there are. But I can tell you, when you have one that does, and you use it in a factor that it was made to be used, I 100% believe they work, and they work really well. In fact, we started years and years and years ago with a simple SP7, which, believe it or not, is one of the better ones out there that you can buy. It's not all that expensive, somewhere between $60 and $100, depending on where you buy it from. The biggest problem with it is it's hard to hear. The static noise is so loud that hearing the responses is difficult. And I spent years listening to it and realized, oh my gosh, they are actually answering my question. Now, somebody on the skeptical side is going to say you're just picking up radio waves, or you're picking up ham radio, or you're picking up some sort of other radio frequency that's making you think you got an answer. Well, unless people are using my first and last name, asking me questions that nobody else is aware of, and these things come through for us all the time, I can tell you without a doubt, these things do work. In fact, I've built many myself, including one we call the Evox, that has had just unbelievable response to it, and we've used it everywhere from ghost hunting to personal residential people asking questions about past loved ones, to even true crime cases, and it has worked phenomenal.
Well, see, that's the difference, because the people I associated with that had those ghost boxes would sit there and demo them to me, for example, and it's stopping on announcer's voice or a commercial, and they say, see, here's the answer right there. And I'm going, well, no, that's part of an advertisement on a radio station. See, there's a difference, okay? And that's where there's a lot of people out there, how can I say it, don't understand how things work. Now, the white noise and in between the frequencies, I can buy that. I just don't buy where it stops when, like on my show, for example, and I say a word, oh, there's your answer. I don't buy that part, okay? That part, I just get a gut feeling I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. And anytime we hear people advertising, because there are a lot of builders out there, and there's some really good ones, don't get me wrong. But when you hear somebody do a demo and you can clearly hear a second or two of some song or a radio commercial, that's when, Cherie and I say to ourselves, okay, that one's not working correctly.
Let me throw one thing. I think one time you did a session, Spirit Box session, and then you didn't ask a question, you did ask a question and you show what you're holding.
And they answered.
And they answered, that's a knife.
Yeah, I was holding a knife and they clearly said, that's a knife. Now again, could that have been just a radio? It could have been. But then I started writing words on paper, and I wouldn't say what I wrote. I would just hold it up. Mm-hmm. And what was there, 3 or 4 words I wrote out? They answered every single one.
And then you asked, can you say elephant?
Oh, yeah. And then I would say a word and ask them to repeat it, and they would. And then, we live in Phoenix, Arizona, and there's not a Tagalog radio station anywhere near here. Yes. And we were asking questions, and Cherie was getting responses in Tagalog.
See, that's the difference. How can I say it? I've been doing commercial broadcasting since 1976, talk radio. And I have had, I will say this, you guys are great guests. You had great encounters, which I believe 100%. What I also had is guests on my show that basically they lied to get on the show in the past. And then you start interviewing them, and then you ask, well, how many ghost hunts you been on? 1. Okay. You've been on 1. Yes, we did 1 at a house, and we charged him $800. And I'm starting to go, now my hair, what little I have, is standing up. And then I said, well, what do you plan to do with your group of ghost hunters? We want to get a cable show.
Good luck.
And you know what? That's so funny, Gary, because that's probably that mindset of beginning ghost hunters is probably the most frustrating thing within the paranormal community today, because the shift is no longer, and it's sad because this isn't where the shift should be. The shift should be about finding answers or somehow fun. Being able to achieve answers within the paranormal. But the input and the goals of the younger ones coming in is that, they want popularity. They want a TV show. They want they want stardom and fame from it. And that's the completely wrong reasons to be anywhere involved in this field.
Well, I have the same thing in my field. I was in commercial broadcasting since 1976. Then 10 years ago, or now it's actually 12 years ago, I was retired. And a friend of mine who's no longer with us, Art Bell, called me up and says, you need to get back on the radio. I said, I don't want to do commercial radio anymore. I'm retired. No, get on the internet. But you know what I find? The same thing in what I do. There is so many people that go down to Walmart, buy a $14 microphone, plug it in their computer, and now they're a talk show host doing, it's something in the paranormal, talking about UFOs or poltergeists or something like that. And I cringe. I really cringe. And then they think they're good. I've had a couple of them that befriended me and wanted to be on my show with me and all this stuff. What they wanted to do is they wanted their own show. Like, how do I get on radio stations? Well, you're not going to get on radio stations unless you've been doing it for a long time. You're good. You have connections. It isn't going to happen. Just do it as fun. Now, like with what you guys, I ran across people out there. That's what they want to do. They want to go out and they do it as a hobby. They get together and it's a social thing. Then you got people like you guys are actually trying to get answers and get facts and stuff like that. And then you got the other group. I want to make money off of this. I want my own cable channel.
Yeah, it's very true, and it's also very sad. I mean, granted, the paranormal shows are extremely popular today, and there's more and more of them coming out. But the odds of actually achieving one and having it successfully green-lighted and hitting a network and surviving more than 6 episodes, it's a long shot. So if that's their goal, I wish them the best of luck, but that's much easier said than done.
Well, I actually had a guy that was going to come on my show, but then he decided not to. Now, he was on one of the major cable networks with a ghost show. One of the, not the original one, but one of the ones very close to the original one. And it was a very popular show. He finally got fed up and he quit because he got tired, and he was the main star of the show. And if I mentioned his name, you'd know who he was instantly. He got so tired because they would go out, and 9 out of 10 times, he said, they would go out and investigate and come back with nothing.
Oh.
Yeah.
And because, like he said, you can't go out to a place every single time and come back with proof. The network told him, go back and fake it and bring it back by tomorrow. And he finally got tired of it because he's actually, was trying to prove that these things exist. This is real. But the network was pressuring him to falsify and come up with, phony stuff so they could just make their money off the network, off of it.
Yep. The one thing you got to remember about paranormal television shows, don't get me wrong, we love them, but they're for entertainment. And one of the other problems today is that a lot of the new people, the good thing that paranormal TV has done is that it's opened up the public to the thought of it. Now, that's a plus. The bad part is that the people who want to try it have a very big misconception about how it actually works and happens. In a 42-minute show, you're not going to get the kind of evidence that's shown on TV because that took them a lot longer than 42 minutes if they caught it at all. But we've gone out nights and not caught anything the entire night. And then we've gone other times and caught something the first 5 minutes, but it's not consistent. You can't make it happen on command. There's no control over it. It happens when it happens, and that's end of story.
Oh, so well put. And like he said, he just got tired of the pressure of the network telling him, hey, you have to have it. Now, I can see it is entertainment. What I do is entertainment. It is because I don't go out and look for UFOs. I don't go out and look for ghosts. I sit in a chair and I ask people questions. It's purely entertainment. Sometimes I wonder if the guest I have is telling the truth. But again, I leave that up to the listeners to make that decision. Duh.
Yep. Yep.
So,
very true.
What are your guys' plans coming up this spring and summer and all that stuff? Where you going to be going to any place exciting?
Yeah, we have a couple of them scheduled already. February, we're heading to the Boulder Dam Hotel in Boulder City, outside of Las Vegas. This place supposedly has a phenomenal reputation for being haunted. They don't like to talk about it. And in fact, they've told all their employees not even to mention it. If a guest even asks anything about paranormal activity, they were basically told to respond, nope, nothing here. But we know that's not true. And we know we're going to have to be somewhat secretive on this particular investigation, just to keep it quiet and keep things sane. But there's supposed to be quite an active array of paranormal activity that occurs there, everything from voices to full-bodied apparitions. So that's one of them we've got planned for 2020. And then the other one we just booked in April is the 1886 Crescent Hotel in
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Eureka, Arkansas.
Yeah, Eureka, Arkansas. And they claim to be the most haunted hotel in America. They embrace the paranormal activity that happens there. So we booked 4 days there, and we are going to scope that place out from top to bottom and hit it with every piece of equipment we have and bring back everything we can capture.
Oh, wow. Now, if it's any place in the world you could go to go ghost hunting, both of you guys, what place would it be?
Wow, that list would be so difficult for me. It would take me days just to narrow it down to one. But there are places I have not been that I know have intriguing history and historical places. Of course, Europe, the UK, you've got, instead of a building being 100 years old, you can have buildings that are 500 years old. And the amount of history that has occurred while that building stood is something we can't compare with here. Mm-hmm. So, some of the old castles and some of the old churches that are still standing in Europe, would love to be able to get over there. And I'm sure we will, because once we started, when we did the Diplomat, that was the first thing we said is, okay, we got a whole bunch of other countries we need to hit. So
we also have one, Waverly Hills. That's what we...
Oh, yeah. Waverly Hills is the one US one big bucket place that is still on our bucket list. Although we were looking at, June, May? July for that one of this year. So hopefully we'll get that one in this year and get that one off the list. But I would definitely...
say hi to James in Ohio.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But
stop by.
I would definitely...
Yeah. Hey, we need to go. Hey, do you guys want to hang around for about another 15 minutes after the break? Because I know James has a lot of questions to ask you guys. And,
Uh-oh.
Absolutely.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, watch out for James. I'll tell you that. Sometimes he can be, evil. We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. We're talking to Tony and his lovely wife about ghost hunting, some of their experiences and all that. If you had a chance to go ghost hunting, where would you go? Contact me at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. We'll be back, in about 2 minutes.
You and I were living in the strangest of times on my hill, watching while the cities rise from the cleft that we left when the sun beat it down into the valley. Of times, you and me, watching while the cities rise and fall like rain. Seems like I knew you before, but when I knew you then. Funny how the colors bend when lifetimes start to blend, and we've been spinning mysteries Mandela. Oh,
you can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio, After Dark, with our host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. Well, we're with Tony as wife. They're a very, famous couple out there ghost hunting as a team. Now, James, go ahead. You got like 15 minutes to ask them some questions.
Okay, thanks. How you guys doing? It's been a while since I talked to you, but I got to ask, I know you guys have a lot of pets. I know you got dogs. I don't know if you have any cats, but have any of the spirits that have followed you home or come home, or have you ever take anywhere, have they ever messed with any of your animals?
Yeah, we've had them mess with the dog when we first got him, but now he is so used to them. I mean, he'll act a little bit strange, like he'll let us know they're there, but he doesn't freak out like he did when it first began. So basically what that tells me is that they're around a lot more than we know they are, because he's almost become accustomed to them.
Yeah. Have you ever considered taking an animal with you on an investigation to use as maybe another piece of equipment or a tool?
Not Loki.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we were heading down to the research center just last weekend, and I said that to Cherie. I said, hey, do you want to try to take Loki down and see if he gives us any additional evidence that they're around, or maybe what room they're in, and we were going to do it, but we had a tour that night. We were giving a public tour, so we didn't, but we'll pick another night, and we just may do that.
Yeah, keep in touch. Let me know what's your results on that. What's the funniest thing that's ever happened on some of your investigations?
Can I say that?
Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, hi, James.
Hey, how you doing, Cherie?
I'm good. So when we were investigating at Ajo, Copper Canyon, with our team, Audra and Chris, can I say that?
I'm not sure what you're going to say, but keep going.
So I was videoing, and then I was doing the video, and Tony was walking in and asking questions, and with Chris with him, and suddenly Tony just, can I say the word? Farted.
Oh, my God.
That is the most funniest ever, and I have that on video. And Chris says, you should post that on Facebook.
Yeah, they came up with the whole idea of a bloopers reel for Entity Voices, and we had two other team members join us, Chris Allgood and Audra Keeler, and they've just been great teammates, because we do a lot of investigating together. But yeah, they found that story funny. I didn't find it funny.
Well, every time he walks, like, he keeps on farting and farting.
I bet the spirits didn't think it was funny either. I wonder what kind of trigger object that would be. My goodness.
I never listened to that recording just for that reason, but there may be some EVPs on there.
Yeah. What's your favorite piece of equipment besides a recorder? What do you like to use?
Mine, I love my EMF and my digital recorder, my bell meter, and of course my cell phone.
Well, for me, I like the FLIR. I like an ITC box that we call the EVOX. Love that thing. But other devices can range based on what's happening in the building. I mean, it can be anything down to divining rods, to motion detectors, to the ones that track footsteps, to we have almost everything. There's a few new devices that have come out we haven't acquired yet, but there's one called the EDI, which is a digital recorder, and it tracks EMF
Like all in one.
All in one. Plus, it'll record the data to an SD card, so you can go back and review it in time. So let's say it captured a vibration or it captured a spike in EMF, and it tracks about 6 different things at once: humidity, temperature, and it allows you to go back and graphically read it. That's one of my favorites too.
Let me ask you this: the SLS Connect. What's your opinion? Are those things legit? Are they accurate, or are they just for show?
Well, we have 2 of them. One Cherie bought, it's a handheld, and one, when they first kind of became a known thing, I built from scratch. And I even went as far as did the actual programming for it to read the inputs off the Kinect camera. They definitely have flaws in it. I mean, you can make a stick figure appear based off of if there's something in the room that looks like it could possibly have arms, legs. There's glitches within the system that do show. So can you take for 100% certainty what you're seeing on an SLS, that you're actually seeing a spirit? My opinion on that is no, you can't. But my other opinion is there's not any device out there that's specifically made to detect ghosts. So what you try to do is you try to get a sampling of multiple information, spikes in EMF, maybe something on an SLS, maybe an EVP. Maybe you ask the figure to raise an arm or lower an arm and see if it follows the commands. But not one piece of equipment is going to give you 100% assurance of anything.
I agree totally. Let me ask you this. Have you guys been to the Bel Air house?
Oh, yes.
Yes, we have.
My gosh.
Love it. It's a great location, and we had a ton of activity.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, the next time you guys
go. First night I did not sleep. I was up all night. I did not close my eyes until the sun came up.
Yeah, you're so scared.
Yeah, that's only about 40 miles from my house. I was there last May, and did you have where did you find the most activity or anything that really caught your eye in that house?
2 places: the attic and the little crawl space in the wall up on the attic by the hallway by the window that was giving multiple owners of that house trouble. And the other place was the basement behind the furnace.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because that's the same results I had, and I've never talked to you about that. But I've got a picture of me in the attic sitting on a love seat, and there was a spirit of an older lady, and she was getting kind of frisky or something. I don't know, but it was. I felt weird. Yeah, I felt weird, and they took a picture. You can clearly see a spirit there. It was weird, and that was in the attic. And
wow.
Yeah, and also when you go upstairs, there's a first bedroom to the left. I'm walking up there, and Melissa was behind me, the team leader of her team. And you ever see that movie Insidious, how the spirits are just standing there motionless?
Yep.
That's what I seen in the corner of my eye, and I turned my head, and there's a spirit standing in the corner like from that movie Insidious. And I said to Melissa, I said, do you...
We caught...
I said... yeah, Melissa, I said to her, do you see that? And she took a look, and she highballed it to the next room. She said, oh, no. She just kept going. But that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
Hey, James, let me ask you a question. Was it in the corner where the closet is? Of that room?
Yeah, and let me add this. And Melissa verified this, too. There was a smell of like somebody had been working all day. It didn't stink, but you could tell it was a male figure. It was like a smell in there, and it would come and go.
That is hilarious, James, because we were there with 2 friends, and they said the exact same thing. They would come out of their room, and they'd walk down the hall, because we were in the last room at the end of the hall, and they'd say, can you smell that? And we're like, no, what? And then we'd go back in the room, and they're like, here, and it'd be gone. But they complained multiple times during the time we were there about this strange smell that would come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and again, I seen another spirit in that room you just mentioned there, and he was kind of, I don't know if there's like certain modes that spirits get into, and they're just kind of like dormant, and they stand around like in that city, but that's what they were kind of like certain periods of the night. It was just weird. I've seen that throughout my life like that, but it's very unsettling to see spirits standing in the corner like, they're like looking at you, but they're not looking at you. You don't know, should I not move too fast or what?
No, it's funny you mention that because they mentioned that as well. Remember, Jason said, "Hey, there's something something was standing by the closet door." That's part of the information you get when it comes from multiple sources. When it's almost an identical match like that from completely different people who had never spoken about it before, that's when you can kind of also help identify, okay, that there's something going on here.
Yeah, they're really active.
Yeah.
They're active.
Yeah, and it's funny, we went up to the attic. Melissa had to go up there for something. She didn't go up by herself, so I was walking up behind her. And we get up there, and I thought her other team member, Claudia, was behind me because we get up there, and the last set of steps going up the attics are wooden, and they kind of crackle when you step on them. Well, I get up to the top, and I can still hear somebody coming up behind me, so I thought it was Claudia. So I turned around. I thought she might need help carrying equipment or something. There's nobody there. It was a spirit following me up there.
When you're walking in the stairs, it feels like there's somebody or something like behind you, like following you.
Well, remember when I was coming down and I almost lost my balance? I wasn't pushed, but it just felt like something was right up against me. Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. That's amazing.
And
that's incredible.
And the other thing that happened there, as soon as you get up top of that steps in that attic, to the right, there's a cabinet, and that cabinet door come open right by itself. I think we got it on film, too, actually, that night.
Oh, my gosh, we had that, too.
Oh, we do have that, too. You're talking about that little about 4 foot high or 3 foot high, well, maybe it's a little taller than that, cabinet with the two doors that open like French doors?
Yes. Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, we have that.
We have that too, James.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
We have EVPs also.
Yeah, we have some good EVPs from that place as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet. The only other thing we caught there was like a real orb, and real orbs. Ones I see, they're like anomalies. They like undulate, and you can tell a real one if you've been doing this a long time, like I have. There's no question. But you can be fooled. But this one, I see with my own eyes, and we got it on film.
Is it on the
undulating.
basement?
Yeah, James. I got to stop you right there. Did you catch it in the basement?
No, we caught that one actually in the main living room, probably right above where you caught yours in the basement, though.
Okay, yeah, because we caught that exact same thing, and there's no doubt this thing has energy in it. It's almost a glowing mist of, I don't know how to explain it. It's not your typical round orb, but what we caught was in the basement, and it was definitely paranormal.
Yeah, now, nobody went in the basement but me. I went down there by myself a few times, and it's funny you mentioned behind that furnace because there was something. I couldn't get a good look at it. It was playing hide and seek with me, but it didn't have a good feel to it. I can tell you that.
Yep, that you are spot on there because that's exactly where we ran into it, and it was not happy we were there. Although it did answer a couple of your questions, Cherie, and very clearly.
Yep.
Yeah, it wouldn't talk to me at all. It didn't, but and I thought I very faintly heard a growl down there too. I could have been wrong, but I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah, I don't doubt at all. We've captured that at the Bel Air house as well as growls.
We would love to go back there.
Yeah, we've been talking about getting an opportunity to go back there again, and because it's an amazing place.
You should join us.
Yeah, you should join us, James. Definitely.
Yeah, just get a hold of me when we get in Ohio. I'm only about 40 miles from there. But just a couple other quick questions. What's the most haunted place you've been to in all your travels?
Well, I would say it definitely falls between. I mean, the Queen Mary definitely was, but we got interrupted with so many people there that it really hindered our investigation. The Diplomat Hotel would probably be my absolute top of the list. The second one's probably the old Phelps Dodge Hospital. But, you know, there's not a place that we either haven't enjoyed or gotten great evidence from. But as far as a feeling of just the overpowering of spirits, definitely Diplomat, and Phelps Dodge is another one. And, of course, we want to get to Waverly this year to check that one out and see how that compares.
Let's see also the 1886 Crescent Hotel.
Yeah, that's another one I'm excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And if you ever get the Hoyo-Bachi Forest or the Suicide Forest in Japan, I think those would be off the hook. Let me know about those.
Yeah, we were actually in Japan 6 months ago, and we were going to try to get there, but it was too far.
Well, the haunted forest, fell asleep.
The haunted forest was too far out of our way to make. And then there was some cemetery right in town that we were going to try to get to, but we got sidetracked. But we'll get back there again.
You were sleeping. Me and my dad, we were like walking.
I hadn't slept in 36 hours. I was tired.
Well, thank you, James, for those questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Boy, I was
Thank you, James.
Thanks.
I was
Yeah,
eating,
guys, thanks.
I was eating a cookie during his interview with you, and I swallowed it the wrong way. Wow. Anyway, that's what's nice about live radio. I can't just go back and erase it and cut that out. If people want to contact you, Tony, how would they contact you?
Well, the easiest way would be a simple email, contact@entityvoices.com. That's probably the simple and easiest way. Of course, we have Facebook. If you just look up Tony Rathman on Facebook, there's ways for you to obviously contact me through Facebook. We have websites, entityvoices.com. We've got one for the Paranormal Research Center, which is the coppercanyonprc.com. There's also ways to email through there. So there's a variety of different methods for them to be able to contact us.
Yeah, and through tomorrow, they can actually go to our website and get all those links to all your stuff. Guys, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I tell you what, the Philippines is one place, if I was going to go ghost hunting, I wouldn't go because I'm a coward.
Even for free airfare?
No. But, you know, what can I say? I'm not the most bravest person in the world. But, guys, I want you to have a great weekend. And thank you guys for, both of you coming on.
Yeah, thanks.
You too. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Gary, very much. This was a pleasure.
Okay, guys. Take care and have a great weekend.
See ya.
You too.
Bye now.
And bye. So, James.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, the old hotel and what, was in the Philippines where the monks, all those people were killed and executed. Scary.
It is scary. One of the most other haunted places in the Philippines is two of them. There's an old prison that's defunct, and there's an old mosque that's defunct there that, boy, it's really haunted too. And there's a lot of places that, around the world that people don't realize that have really had a lot of trauma and drama, and it's still lingering. There's still battles going on in the spirit world there.
Well, it sounds like the place they went to, you had the monks, you had the nuns, you had, prisoners of war, you had people being decapitated, you had executions, all the blood, all this stuff. I tell you, and it sounds like the entities never went to the light. They're still trapped there in that building. Scary.
Yes, there's like layers and layers over the years of spirits there. And I have found, at least in my world, that sometimes when you got a lot of history, layers upon layers of spirits, and a lot of trauma and stuff, they are having their own battles in the spirit world on top of what's going on interacting with humans.
Oh, yeah. So what place would you go, James, if you had any place in the world to go for 2 days to investigate? Where would you want to go if you had that capability?
The Hoyo-Bachi Forest in Romania, because that forest is off the hook. It's got a circle in the middle of it. Nothing will grow. There's UFOs there, aliens, zombies, ghosts. It's got the whole buffet of everything there.
I would go to one of those, prisoner of war camps in Germany, or actually where they held the Jews, for example, because I would think it would be so much richness of, well, how can I say it? Spirits. It would be scary.
Well, I will say this much. If you want to see a lot of spirit, Gettysburg. I went to Gettysburg, Gary. The first 2 days, I was wiped. There's so many spirits there. I'm talking thousands. They bum rushed me. It took me 2 days to get a grip on and control them and get my health back. There's just everywhere there. And another place is Waverly. There's just so many people that died in these places that they're just everywhere. And a lot of them don't even know they're dead.
That's the main thing. Now, next week, starting on Monday, we got George Workman is going to be a guest. And then on Tuesday, we got Jean Bodie. Is she going to be, talking about her book about UFOs? And then on Wednesday, we got Mark Sargent. Now, you're asking who he is? Well, it's a flat Earth person is going to give his views about the Earth being flat. And then we got two great more guests during the week. We got Joe Taylor talking about cryptics, talking about dinosaur bones, talking about whatever it's in his mind, maybe even Mothman. And then we're going to top the end of the week next week. Back by popular demand for probably about the 8th time, Jason Offutt is going to be on talking about American monsters and different locations about cryptics. So we got a good week next lined up.
Yeah, definitely. And like I say, Monday, my buddy George Workman's going to be on talking Bigfoot and cryptids. He's out of Pennsylvania, and he's got a lot of good reports, I'm sure. And I'm not familiar with the Bodie guy, but I do know...
That's a lady. That's a lady, not a guy.
Oh, did I say guy? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm not used to having women on here. But yeah, I'm not familiar with her, but looking forward to hearing from her, that's for sure. And Joe, we haven't heard Joe for a while, but he's always got good stuff, especially with dinosaurs and things like that.
Oh, yeah. So it's going to be a great week. Again, a big shout out to Earl Grey for letting us play his music on our show. A little bit about Earl Grey. He's a investigator, a local director of investigating department for MUFON in Southern California, if I remember right. And then a huge shout out to Tom with Metatron Power and Light. These guys love the show. We have a lot of our music is done by them. In fact, they've got some new music we got coming here next week, hopefully, it's going to even be better yet. A little bit about them. The other day, they went up and down I-5 in Washington State to all the big truck stops and were giving out CDs of all, 11 of their most, best songs. And also telling the truckers about our show and handing them cards where they could find our show. A big shout out for Tom for doing that. I love support like that. Now, where you live, if you're not picking us up on a radio station, hey, call up your local radio station or stations and say, hey, there's this real cool talk show called Night Dreams Talk Radio. Why aren't you playing it? You need to do that. And, also share us on your media. Now, this weekend, hopefully, if everything goes right, we're going to revamp even the website a little bit more, make it more up-to-date and styling and more exciting for you, a lot bigger and all that stuff. If it's not this weekend, it'll be next weekend, but it's going to be a radical change from what it is now. And we're going to cover even more topics on Earth news, UFO sightings, and all this stuff in our website, plus more information on each guest each night for that week. So we're going to do some major changes. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I talked to somebody else helping me do it, so that makes it even easier. And I hope everybody's going to have a great week, and I know that I am. I'm going to be booking more guests. In fact, if there's somebody you want heard on our show, easily contact me at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com, and I'll try to get them on. Our show is really involved from 15 listeners now up to 30. Well, actually, we're on 20-some radio stations. We're doing really good on the internet. we're actually blowing up a lot of shows that do the same thing we do. Our numbers are getting up there, so watch out, guys. And James, what do you got planned this weekend?
Well, I've got planned, I'm going to catch up on some sleep. That's what I've got planned. Seems like I haven't got no sleep at all this week. The sun's always popping up, keeping me up, but that's what I've got planned pretty much. Just taking it easy, maybe do a little grocery shopping. I hate to go out of the house because, well, I just hate to do it, but I'm going to do it.
Okay, so you're going to get on your bike and run to the store?
No, I'm going to have my sister take me this time.
Okay, well, that's better than riding and have to worry about getting hit by a car.
Oh, yeah, amen to that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I just really enjoyed the guests tonight. And furthermore, I was going to say, I enjoyed all the guests we've had this week. I mean, look at this. We had Bruce Maccabee on. We had Rob on last night. We talked about Mothman. I mean, the whole week has been cram-filled with some top guests in the paranormal. So I hope you, the listeners, love what we've been doing.
Yeah, and I've got to agree with, we've had some great guests, and even the guests that I've known Cherie and Tony for quite a while. They're very, very good people, and they're legit and honest. They're not fake, and they don't give the field a bad name. And yeah, Bruce was awesome. Bruce Maccabee's always great, and Rob Shelsky. Everybody this week was good.
Oh yeah, you know, if I had any place in the world to go, honestly, to go ghost hunting, I would say Scotland and probably the UK, because you know what, they're so rich in history. I mean, you know, like Tony mentioned, you know, you can go there and find, well, taverns or the local pub, I should say, that's been there for 500 years and is still existent. I mean, you can go into like houses that's been there for hundreds of years. You're certainly not going to find it in our country. Well, till tomorrow, I just want to say to everybody out there, thank you for listening to the show tonight, to Barb and everybody else out there, Tim, and to everybody out there on the radio stations. Thank you for tuning in to Night Dreams Talk Radio. We'll catch you on Monday.
Bye-bye.
You thirst for some significance of the both dimensional kind. You enter a realm of spirit, of sight and sound and mind. Your radio is a cosmic doorway and your psyche begins to spark. When you tune in to Gary Anderson and Night Dreams After Dark.
Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Hey, Kev, the client needs that document ASAP.
I'm trying, but the internet is so slow. And now it isn't working at all.
Is your internet provider holding your business back? Switch to one who keeps you moving forward. At Cox Business, we know how crucial connectivity is to your business. That's why we give you the peace of mind of around-the-clock network monitoring and 24/7 support. So if your provider isn't setting your business up for success, make the switch to Cox Business today. Get 50 megs of internet for only $90 per month with a 1-year agreement. Ends 4/30/20. Restrictions apply. Visit coxbusiness.com for details.
It's a new dawn for casino players in the West Valley. With an all-new casino that's bigger and more exciting than ever. Get in on the action with over 1,000 slot machines, blackjack, poker, bingo, 5 unique culinary options, and more chances to win big. The fun rises in the West at the all-new Desert Diamond Casino West.